Hi, this is Imrana Ali coming to you from Urbanliving. Today's episode, we have two guests, Mr. Earl Weeks, a retired Marine, and Miss Marina Gilbert, a caretaker. Thank you for joining us today, you all. How are
Thank
you?
you for
You're welcome.
having us. I'm blessed.
Thank you. And we'll start with Mr. Weeks. I understand that you are retired military,
Yes,
and thank you for your service.
you're welcome.
And how long have you been retired now, may I
Oh
ask?
my goodness, since 1998.
And you retired from the military?
No, no. I originally was hurt as a Marine recruiter driving my vehicle, my government vehicle. A civilian crashed into me while I was recruiting, and I was medically discharged. Um, After that, for 7 years, I worked security. And then I had surgery on my neck the first time because I was bending over and my hands were cramping up and stuff. And after that, I couldn't work anymore.
So how long did you serve in the Marines? That was
10 years.
10 years. Did you get a chance to go? You always go overseas when you're in the
Well,
Marines.
that was my first duty station was Okinawa, Japan.
Okinawa, Japan. How
Yes.
long? How long were you there? May I
I
ask?
was there the first time, 3 years.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
well, it was originally a 1 year duty station,
Hmm.
but they kept giving me orders to Camp Lejeune. I didn't want to go.
Oh, they
So I
gave you orders to
extended,
Camp Lejeune.
yeah, I extended twice.
I didn't know that you can deny orders once you give, and I thought you had to
You
accept
could
all.
try. They don't always accept it. I was lucky they accepted my extension.
And you were in Okinawa.
Yes.
I was a student at Temple University, and they had foreign
Study
students,
abroad.
and I thought that I wanted to go to Japan,
Hmm.
but I never got the opportunity. How was Japan?
Beautiful.
It is
Beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah, Okinawa is it's like it has a record, the Guinness World Record for being the smallest island with the most cars on it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something like 17 miles by 13 miles, something like that.
You know,
It's really small.
so you served during peacetime.
Uh, I would say yes and no because when I got out was probably a Desert Shield was going on.
I have
Yeah.
a question. You have to educate me if you can.
Hmm.
I did a little research on a favorite here, a man, General MacArthur,
Hmm.
and I don't understand his role in our American history because he was one of our great. He gets credit as being one of our greatest generals.
Right.
His father was in the Philippines. He later went to the Philippines. He suffered some type of defeat for a while and came back, and he was assigned to Japan.
Hmm.
Um, that in and of itself is over my ability to understand. It's like, how do you see that him as a figure? Have you ever had a chance to, deliberate and consider his value in American history in Japan, his influence? Do you see that influence at all, or is it just? I mean, is it everything about Japan? Do they ever talk about the significance of his leadership over there at all?
No, but the thing is, they had to, well, they one had to fix everything after the war, you know.
They had to. Okay, that is Americans' responsibility. What do you think about that policy, American policy of to destroy something and then to build it up? What that in just off the cuff? Uh,
Yeah, it's a good policy, you know. Even well, Okinawa itself, you know, when the Americans took over, they changed it from driving on the left side of the road to the right side of the road, you know, and they do a lot of improvements, engineering wise, especially.
mhm,
Um, but later on, they turned it back over to the Japanese,
mhm.
and then the Japanese are right now they're back on the left side of the road.
They're back to doing it with the way they went. Okay,
Right.
back to that may or may not be a. Well, I mean, once you turn something over, it's free to do.
Belongs to the people.
Yeah, yeah. But
Hmm.
he went. General MacArthur went over there, and that to me that was such a unique um, position because I don't know many people who could have done that. And if he hadn't had a background talking to and relating to Asiatic community, who else could have done something like that?
But that's probably why he was picked, for it, and especially when you make a transition from war until, peace, especially the person that takes over immediately, you got to be tough. It's almost like martial law. You got to bring things back, together. Excuse me.
Back into order.
Yes, and the people are still angry.
To this day, I mean, not
Well,
now.
no, but I
Back
mean
then.
when he took the transition,
Hmm.
and maybe a little bit today too, But the thing is that you have to work with that. You can't put a high head there, you know. You have to put people that understand what they're doing and people that the troops admire, that they're going to listen to, you
So
know.
we really, United States, because they have a DMZ in Korea,
Yes,
and they could have left it a DMZ zone, especially after atomic. So it was a deliberate decision on the American side to fix what we destroyed.
right.
And then to this very day, so I live in the dark ages. I did not know how progressive. When we go over there now, it's not really an American city. What is it? It's a hybrid, right? It's the
You're
best
talking
of
about
America,
in
Japan.
Japan,
Yeah,
In Okinawa.
it's a blend of American and Japanese culture.
Yes, yes, because now they have Costco and all kinds of stuff.
They're just as okay,
Yeah.
just American as apple pie.
Well, not that much, but they got some of it because you have the service people there, you know. So it's a blend of it. Yeah,
Hmm.
Burger Kings and things like that. Stuff that we didn't. When I was there, I think they were building the Burger King, but now they have all that there.
The thing, I'm not going to belabor the issue, but the reason why I've tried to, I get so excited is because initially United States fought with China against Japan, and now Japan is in alignment with the United States, and China gets the tensions with China. We're looking at her military build up, and it's a lot going on there,
Right.
and
Lot.
it's just so. Um, my dad always said the pendulum swings,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and you have to go with the punches. It's two sides to every story, and I'm very rigid. And it's for them to say that now, Japan is did rose to the occasion, and now we have to see what our interests are going to be over there on the Asian bloc, and it's very interesting to watch. But you were saying you were injured.
Yes. I was in a car accident, and I had whiplash. And what I didn't know was that I had cervical spinal stenosis. And Navy doctors here at the hospital here weren't taking care of me. So for 9 months, I was actually hurt, and they weren't doing what they're supposed to do until I basically cussed out my sergeant major. He said, "Sergeant Weeks, obviously you're sick. Go have a seat." And he had me go down to the hospital, and I went there. They couldn't find my MRI. So I'm in the x-ray room looking for my MRI. I found it. They had it under somebody else's social security number. And then the doctors and nurses were talking about me, making jokes. And the doctor, as he was joking, put the MRI on the light box behind me. And then he was like, "Oh, Sergeant Weeks, you got cervical spinal stenosis. You can't be in the Marines. You're going to have to get out." So they put me on legal hold there for 7 months before I was discharged.
And after you were discharged, did you decide to get care immediately, or did you work in civilian? At what point did you meet Miss? How did it come about that you met Miss Gilbert?
Oh, that's a long story. But
Were you in the market for caretaking, or did you meet Miss Weeks and
no,
decide that you needed a caretaker?
no. So Um, I'm almost sure I got out. I don't think that I even went to the VA for a minute. I don't know what made me initially go to the VA, but I went to the VA, and then I know my brother and his friend give me more information about the VA.
Mm-hmm.
I got more involved in the VA and got more thingy percentages when you have medical
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
problems, service connected, and I was able to work. Yeah, I met Miss Gilbert, and we went out.
In her official capacity, or
No, no,
just
no.
okay? You it was
Yes.
and then it was basically networking, so to speak.
No, no. We're boyfriend and
No,
girlfriend.
Oh, congratulations! Sorry.
we
we
we go ahead. You can talk.
okay. I met him online because of his name. I liked his name.
Weeks.
No, his online
Earl.
name was
Mad was it Mad
Mad
Love?
Delight or
Mad Love.
something.
Mad
Okay.
Love.
And I was like, Mad Love. I said, Mad Love. I said, that's got to be a lot of love if it's
Mhm.
mad like that.
Okay. Okay.
So I sent him an email, and we talked a few times. But what I noticed is that no matter what little bit of texting I did to him, he would send me back a whole page of his day from day, what he's doing, what he's working, and I was like, God, he's so detailed about everything. I said, okay. So we started calling each other, and then we just took it from there. I was in South Carolina though. We were long distance. So, but I had family in New York. So when I would come to New York or Pennsylvania to see family, I would see him. I think we saw each other the first time for my birthday, and Valentine's and my birthday are close together, so we spent like 2 weeks together. And after that, it was like, oh, okay, all right. So we just started talking from there, and we've come 16 years. So, he's involved with my family, and I'm involved with his family,
And
and
you're from the Carolinas.
I grew up in South Carolina, yes.
Now where is Michael Jordan from?
Michael Jordan is from North Carolina.
Okay, so the Carolinas have a lot of. How many bases are out there?
Um, I know there's Columbia has a base. Spartanburg has a base. I think is it
Paris Island,
Spartanburg?
South Carolina.
And like down in Orangeburg, down in that area.
Yeah.
So they have like maybe about 3 bases. I'm gonna say 3.
In the Army, the Fort Jackson, South Carolina is
Yes, I
Army.
know Army and
Fort
Fort
Bragg,
Jackson, and
Mhm.
and
Fort Bragg is North Carolina.
so that's where Michael Jackson.
Michael
Jordan.
Jordan
Michael
is from
Jordan
North
is from.
Carolina.
That area.
Yeah, I always just associated the Carolinas with the migration. That's the reason I asked.
Yes.
The great migration of
Yes.
blacks to the north. I didn't
Yes.
really realize that they had some of the largest military personnel down there
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And it's
Charleston.
fabulous.
Charleston too.
To me, it was
Hmm.
because it's a different environment than what I'm used to in Philadelphia. This is civilian. I don't. We have an army base anywhere around here.
Here, the
have-
closest would be Fort Dix or Indiantown Gap, probably.
See, you see no military presence. Not really. You
No,
see
not
presence.
anymore. When I was a kid, they had the naval base here. And you would see the Navy guys all the time.
Oh, that was where my grandfather. But that's another. Yeah, my grandfather worked on the Navy base.
Mhm.
He worked, but he got asbestos poisoning. That was when it was. I remember my mother being able to. My mother and father. My father's retired Air Force. My father's retired Air Force. They never separated until recently, and then he passed away. They passed away. They were separated, but she had his card, so she could go to the base, and it was a big
Right.
deal.
Right,
That was a big deal.
right.
Oh,
And
yeah.
go and get on the base, and
Commissary.
she would show her card, and they would go on the base and get groceries and come
Right.
back, she would make the trip.
Right.
all the way from North Philadelphia to South Philly just to go on the base.
Oh yeah.
And I remember she'd come home and fill that fridge. We had a little freezer and fill it up,
Mhm.
and
Prices were good then.
Hmm.
yeah, that's what she was price shopping.
And then you ever heard of Willow Grove?
Hmm.
Yeah, it used to be a air base out there too.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
it was because we used to watch the air show when I would come down here. We would stop and watch the air show in right outside of Doylestown, Willow Grove.
Hmm. Hmm. So when I went to the Carolinas, I wanted to get away from Philadelphia for some reason. Um, what happened? I had like a somewhat of a cultural shock because I'm from Philadelphia, but I'm an Air Force brat.
Hmm.
So I was in Germany with my dad. I was in Dayton, Ohio with my mother and father. Then I came here in 1968. I was 5. Then I stayed with my mother until I was just before puberty, adolescence, and then I left Philadelphia again, and lived with my dad in Texas. So and then I went. He came back. He said, "I'm leaving. I'm retiring now. You want to come home with me, or you want to stay here?"
Mhm.
And teenagers being like they are, I, I stayed. We're in Texas,
Mhm.
and he came back to Philadelphia. And I said all that to say is that I've always been around multicultural um, people,
Right.
different age groups, different cultures, different languages. Whereas Philadelphia, when is basically I was always in North Philadelphia, so I was just among uh, the black community.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I didn't think it was anything more important than the black community when I was in the black community than when I was younger. However, because I went to law school and that type of stuff, when I went to Atlanta and I lived in Atlanta and I stayed there for 10 years,
Mhm.
and so after time when I came to Philadelphia, at around the age 40s, my parents were beginning to get ill and that
Mhm.
type of thing. I had to be home, take care of family matters, and I noticed not just in Philadelphia, but the general buzz, with this new global market, was that the race relations were taking a different turn.
Hmm.
Mhm.
For as much progress as we were making, with, being able to vote and that type of thing, now there's another current of immigration, and they had to um, make America their home, and they
Mhm.
hadn't their introduction to the states was not like mine. And a man who comes here, and God bless his soul, may God, he helped me to understand that. His name is Joe Beckton, and I know you have to laugh, but
No, 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 no,
Oh,
no,
he
no,
knows
no,
Joe
no.
Beckton.
Joe Beckton is a Civil War reenactor with me. The first time I
oh,
met Joe
he
Beckton,
broke my heart.
I was a Marine recruiter,
He explained it to me.
and Joe Beckton gave me and my future Marines a tour of the Navy and Marine Corps museums.
Okay.
So when I went to the Civil War group, I wanted to do a documentary about them. I kept telling them I wasn't going to join, and after listening to the guys, I ended up joining right after talking to them.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, we're good friends.
Okay. Well, see now. Okay. Okay. All right. So I was feeling some type, like the song says, I was feeling some type of way. I
Mhm.
mean, Obama's supposed to be this and we're supposed to be that, but I'm feeling a lot of racism and I don't know where it's coming.
From.
And then I'm listening
Mhm.
to, so and one part of me wants to say, hey, one man said, well, this generation, the millennials are the least prejudiced of any generation you can think of in history. And I say, well, that's true, but where is all of this? And the Black Caucus is saying one thing, and even now we're wading through it. And so Joe says, our story is he brung it home for me because I was feeling like, well, maybe, even Jesse Jackson was saying things like they're taking away everything that you know, we've ever achieved, and there's a lot of truth because Jesse doesn't lie, Mr.
Right,
Jackson,
right.
Reverend Jackson. So how was I? So Joe Beckton says, wait a minute. I have the interview. He says, our story, number one, is a story of victory. It's still a story of victory.
Mhm.
And then when the immigrants come, and I'm like, you know, we're not really, you're an immigrant. He says, no, you know, their arrival is the same. There is the same is intricately involved in our push for freedom.
Right.
And just like blacks, we got our rights, then they have to, assimilate and find their way in this empire called the
Right.
United
Right.
States. And that helped me a lot. That helped
Right.
me. I mean, we have not failed. It's a story of victory. It was a story of struggle, and we're, whereas I see, you get some of these people, they do the old school know how to the old boy network knows how to eyebrow beat you if they
Yes.
want to.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and I said, well, I've always been very proud, not really militant, but I found myself cowing down more and more and disliking myself a little. And he says, no, we've always struggled and we've always fight, and the fight continues.
Yes.
Nothing's changed.
Right.
I mean, we've won. A lot has changed.
We did win a lot of things,
Yeah,
but they're working on taking things apart.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so I got out of my pity party and picked myself by the bootstraps and said, okay, I might not understand because I might not understand this wave of immigration, and that is on every headline that they're working as we speak. But thanks to Joe Beck, then that interview really was an education piece for me.
One of the things I get out of it is you got to remember us as African Americans, we did not come here because we wanted to. We were brought from Africa to America. That's why we're called African Americans. We are enslaved Africans that were born in America. Even, like we do the Civil War. When the Civil War was over, we weren't even citizens, And these new people
That's
are,
what he says. He says that.
these new people are immigrants. They're coming to America. I've been to 14 countries. This is the best thing going. It's bad here and we get this crap here, but this is the best thing going worldwide. These people are coming here to improve themselves, And then when you look at the ones from Mexico, okay, so Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, all that was Mexico until the United States took it over. So they were citizens of those areas. One day, just think I think you was American today, and then tomorrow Spain owns it.
Well, see, the thing with Mexican, when I grew up, one of my best friends was Mexican. Her father was black and her mother was Mexican. She spoke, I mean,
Right.
almost, the, the like if you spoke Mexican, you could, it was an interracial.
Right.
But the point being, I never thought twice about it. I never said I'd have any. She was my friend. I
Right,
didn't have
right.
to go through any intellectual gymnastics about Mexico. Okay, you're Mexican, and you know what I'm saying.
No, but again, that's also natural too, because when Spanish people came here, they mixed with the Indians. They mixed with the slaves.
Yeah.
So they're like Mexico was the first black city in the Americas. So that's a natural thing. You know, so like even with slavery, when slavery ended and slaves were no longer working the plantations or whatever, the Mexicans do. That's where we get all our crops and stuff from. They work the jobs that the slaves no longer work.
That's
So we're in this together. We don't see it yet. Once we start getting all together and saying, we got this in common, that in common, and we need to fight for all our rights.
yeah, and that's what.
Once,
better.
once everyone knows the history, when the real history is taught, and you understand the history, then that's when everybody can get together on one accord because we're all the same.
And that's what they're knocking down, where they're talking about not teaching black history. That's what it is, because one day they're hoping that no one will talk about slavery.
And when you talk about history, you can't forget the caretaker role. Now you have How many children do you have? You've always been a caretaker. That's how we started talking.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have two children. I have a son and a daughter. I have three grandchildren, two girls and one boy. And but all my life, from I know from 5 up, I can always remember kids being in my house with my mom, and and then, neighbors saying, "Oh, Rena, can you babysit for me? We want to go out tonight." Just different occasions where I always was taking care of somebody's children. And I mean, some of these kids were 6 months old, and I wasn't that much older than they are. As I see them today, these same kids that I was taking care of, they're like, some of them may be 6 years younger than I am. Some may be a little less, and I'm looking at them like, oh my goodness. I say, honey, do you remember me? And I had to introduce myself to them, and I said, I used to take care of you when you were a baby. Like, two of the little kids were 6 months old, and her sister was a year old. And I used to, keep them on the weekend because their mom and dad worked. So my mom was home, but I was main one doing most of the stuff. Feeding, changing hair, baths and all. So all my life I've been taking care of somebody, and not knowing why I was placed in this role, I later understood why. Because my mom died when I was very, very young. So she taught me a lot of stuff before she left the world. So I had my basis of caregiving then, because I could take care of my whole family. That means laundry, that means cooking, cleaning. I just did not have the monetary part of it. But I have brothers. I had four brothers, and it's just me as a girl. But once my mom passed away, even while she was sick, I would come home on the weekend because I went to a boarding school. I would come home on the weekend and I would take care of her for the care. We had a nurse that came in during the week because you got a bunch of boys at home. They're going to school, so we had someone come in during the week. Weekends was my time. I did everything on the weekends, cook up all the meals for the week, wash all the clothes, make sure she's taken care of, everything was taken care of with her. Then I would have to go to school on Sundays. So,
So you had to take care of your mom?
yeah, I took care of my mom on the weekends. So, uh, uh, as far as a childhood, growing up as a child, I really didn't have that luxury, and I guess that's why I'm so silly now. So I'm really silly, and I love having fun. I love laughing.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I still play kids games with my
How many
grandkids.
siblings did you have?
I had four brothers.
And you took care of all of them?
I took care of them, washing clothes, and my oldest brother was the one that usually did like the cleaning to make sure that everything was right.
Okay.
But that's the way we helped our mom. She already taught us what to do. My oldest brother, he used to do my hair. He used to, always make sure my hair was right. Always made sure when we walked out of the house, we had our breakfast, and make sure our clothes was right. We go to school and come back, we had a routine. And this is the routine she taught us. When we come home from school, change your clothes, get your homework done. She'll have a snack there. You eat your snack while you're doing your homework. Once the homework was done, whatever housework you had to do, you get your housework done. Then dinner was started. So I would work in the kitchen with her, getting dinner and stuff started for the family. But at a young age, when you talk about taking care. And I even had a group of older ladies in the neighborhood that didn't have anybody. I would always take care of their hair for them, make sure their hair was washed every 2 weeks and fixed every 2 weeks. So I had things to do with even with playing with my younger brother and my best friend. We had a foursome, and you didn't mess with the foursome. You mess with one of the foursomes, you had to mess with all of the foursomes.
Oh, okay.
So it was two Ronnies. We had Ronnie, and my brother was named Ronnie, and we had Mary Jane and myself, Marina. So it was like Marina and Mary Jane, Ronnie and Ronnie. You didn't mess with us. That was the crew. So they would always be waiting for me. You finished yet? You finished yet? I'm almost finished. So I could go outside and play for a little while. And then I would be called back in to, do whatever I needed to do. So, but once my mom got really bad, I just, I stayed at home for a little while. Matter of fact, I was taken out of school for a little while. I did homeschooling
Oh, okay.
for a little while. And then February 6th, I was going back to school. Like I said, I went to a boarding school. It was called South Carolina School for the Deaf and Blind. So I went there during the week, and then on the weekends I come home. And
Let me ask you one question. The reason why I'm listening to you attentively about your caregiving role is because there's a tendency with the pro-life controversy, what's being what I'm noticing from it is a sense that um, in the black community that the black woman, as a general proposition, is losing her um, basically innate ability to want to care for the family. Everybody supposedly we're being seen as a lot more selfish,
yes,
a lot more materialistic, very very selfish, and so much so that a lot of us are losing our children to the government institutions. Lady was saying we have a zero mortality rate, and I find it to be very disheartening that here we made it from the Carolinas during the time of slavery. We were such a strong family unit in the
hmm
midst of pure
chaos.
right.
Mm.
And now when we have so much and made so many headways, I mean, we almost look like a shell of a woman sometime to the world. Maybe not to. Is it true or is that just me inflating it? Are we? Because they said that the black woman has the highest incidence of all the illness with AIDS. We have a high incidence of women abortion and drug use, and that we're losing our children. It's almost a joke. I don't know if it's mainstream joke or not, but we may have been the great caretaker, but we aren't anymore. Is this fiction? Is this reality?
Uh, I think that is determined by the generations. Now, in my generation, we were taught a whole different way than these people are taught today.
You think they're just? Do you think they love their? You think the black woman is still, the black family is still strong and ready to go, or are we on the ropes here?
I think we're on the ropes. Uh, Remember now, as a single black woman, we had to now get out and survive ourselves. Whereas maybe their mother didn't have to get out and survive because we always had a two-parent home. A lot of the women that I see today are single parents. So they're getting out. You don't know, once you're out of your house, you don't know what your kids are doing,
Uh,
you know, because there's only one person there now. So there's a move with the men that I can see. The move with the men is definitely on the ropes. They've moved out of their house. I've seen men that said, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. You got 5 kids and a wife, house, and a home, and you don't want to be in that situation
yeah,
anymore.
we're losing confidence in each other, and that's just totally unacceptable.
Yeah, so they're moving on to another
To where?
family or single
To
woman
what?
that may have 2 kids, and they're taking care of those 2 kids, and you left your whole household. You left your responsibility as a man in another household to move on to a single woman that, where you thought the grass was a little bit greener and
Yes.
it was less responsibility.
Yes.
So
I,
I'm looking at both sides that's shucking on responsibility myself. Um, and I we think away and they have their ways of thinking. And they're thinking about survival, whereas to um, when we were younger and we had our homes, like Earl came from 2-parent home. I didn't. I came from a 1-parent home. But you better believe that you had your grandmother, you had your grandfather, you had your aunts and uncle. They stronghold that household too because they helped the my mom, my great grandmother. They didn't play with us. If something went on that we got in trouble about, we were gonna get in trouble with our mom first. She was gonna tell the grandma. She was gonna tell the granddaddy, the aunts, uncles, and you were gonna get confronted by all those people.
well, as a general proposition, I think Southerners are a little more family oriented than the Northerners. We have a lot going on up here that's, to distract us away from the family. But to the credit of the black community, I think it's something that America, as a general proposition, is going to have to ask because it's the family. As the story went was, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Um, we're here to create a more better union.
Yes.
And when I say that, some people, the racial, the bigots kind of smirk to themselves like, you weren't the one that were involved. But the fact of the matter is that America prided, that the old America and this new America prided herself on being a more better union. And that's a union between a man and woman and their children. And if that the enemy is going to attack you where they think you're
The
not paying
weakest.
attention at. If he destroys that union, that family union, which is the core of this civil society, then he can destroy the entire country.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's like a king and a queen. If you take his queen, then it's checkmate. And that, I think to me, that's what I see the enemy doing. Not just in our community. They, like Wilson Good said, he fries some and he bake others. They're telling us one thing, and then they go to all the other community. They want, and that is how the Civil War was done. They destroyed the decency and the integrity and the moral of the individual, and then that's
Yes.
where the corruption
Yes.
and the
Yes.
decay come. And I don't know if America. I think America's getting blind. You were going to say something.
Yeah. Like listening to you talk, like one of the things I know, America, the government made it, like say if you live with your wife in public housing. So they make it easier if the man doesn't live there. You know, if the man is not with the woman, it's easier for the woman to get money. You know, some of the government's actions push our people apart.
Yeah, I remember I was
You know,
practicing. I was practicing law one time, and I had a case. And after the case, a judge got off to the bench, and he said that exact words to me. And to that, I didn't answer at the time. But when I was younger, my mother was on public assistance, and my dad was in the military, and my uncle. We had other family members who, were there, but they weren't there. And my mother and father had gotten separated, and then my mother tried. They didn't have deadbeat dads back then, and they didn't have you have to come to court. So my mother contacted his commander because my dad left. He left us. We had left Ohio, and then we were situated down the street. I grew up right down the street. I told the other people about 5 blocks this way. And we went there, and then he went over to Thailand. And for a while, my dad sent money home.
right?
And then they got on on the outs, became estranged with each other, I guess through mail or whatever, and he wouldn't send any more money home. So my mother wrote a letter to the commander, and then my dad talked to his commander, and he still didn't send any money
Oh
home.
no.
Yeah, and so me and my mother, so it was bad, right? So the commander wasn't going to hold my dad's feet to the fire, he's not. So um, he didn't like the situation, whatever it is, the politics. So then my mother was with me now, and so when if she ever had a significant other or anything like that, she couldn't, because he was getting welfare. I mean, she wouldn't, it was have to be. I mean, so how are we going to? How did we make it? Well, the upshot of the conversation is she didn't have her. She was a high school dropout, and she didn't have a degree, so she went to school and she got grants and stuff like that. And she got her GED, and then they helped her get her associates, and then got the grants. It's not like it was nowadays. Everything is on the internet. Nobody
Right.
knew.
Right.
It was
You have
something
to
really
find
big.
the information.
Oh, but now they talk about it like, it's like, I mean, it's 300 million people here, and everybody has a degree now, so it's not such a big deal. But back then, it was that's how we survived. So I guess he was wondering, where did you come from? I've had people say that to me. How did you get here? My mother believed in education. She strongly believed that we did have a regiment, but I'm very different than you were, and that's why it's interesting. My mother had 3 children, but I was the only one at the house at the time. So I got all of her undivided attention.
Oh, yeah.
Right, but it was just me. It was just me. And she knew I would be lonely, and she ordered to compensate. She made friends for me outside in the community.
Really?
Yeah, she was tried to be
Oh.
civically involved, and when she became civically involved, she'd
That-
screen them, and
okay.
then that became my friend, and that's where I went to church.
Okay.
Every night I had to be home before dark.
Exactly.
Play night did not necessarily come. There was not you didn't necessarily go outside and play, whether you had your play clothes on or not. You had to finish it. We had a routine.
Right.
You know, and I never had any children. I always wanted children, but I never had. I always thought I was gonna have. I had all these things, and one that I thought this man was gonna have to be, but it didn't work out that way. And I had the way that I wanted my child to be raised because my mother scared me. She said, if you have children, you're going to raise them, not like other parents like I'm
Not
thinking.
raising
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, she told me you are going to raise them, and that was enough. I didn't. So she scared. She scared me. She scared me. She scared me. I did not have. I can't do it because I'm going to get pregnant. My mother's not going to take care of it.
But that was a little bit of the intention too. A little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
To let you know
At least
that
later.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
but I didn't. So that I never developed the caretaker. I mean, I never were able to embellish in that role of myself as a caretaker. I find that the more successful women have. I don't want to remind myself of what I don't have because I had my career and I
you're
had a
blessed.
wonderful
Right.
career. But it's just God works. My mother said God works in mysterious ways.
And He
He has
does.
wonders to perform.
does.
And so I kind of laugh, to myself. But I'm just so at the other end of the spectrum. And that's. But I congratulate you on
Thank you.
on your role, and it's never. I don't want to sound cliche as the hand that rocks the cradle. I don't want to say that, but women, I kind of like thought it was chauvinistic for a man to say that, I want the woman to teach and I want her to be a nurturer. But now I thank him, from the bottom of my heart. He was wise when I wasn't. It wasn't just he wanted to pigeonhole me as a teacher. He didn't want to sit me down.
That's the way you took it.
Yeah, hey, I want to do this. I didn't want to say that. But now,
You get it. You
Yeah.
get
Yeah,
it.
because there's two parts to it, and I try to do, like with the grandchildren. It's my job to be hard. I don't want them to get all this soft, because then when they get to the realistic part of the world, they can't handle it. So it's my job to help them make it through the tough part. I mean, that's the way I see it. They don't, oh, Poppy, no, 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 this is the city, the suburbs, this and that. No, if I don't teach you this stuff, you walk right into it and don't even
Yeah,
see it.
yeah, yeah.
Man,
He used to teach them all how to walk, to walk these streets and to be aware of your surroundings. Because, kids are just walking and they're just mindlessly doing whatever the kids are doing. And, he gave them another aspect because we're from the South, even the little town I lived in what? In Harrisburg, we really just never been to the city. And been where we had to be aware of everything that's going on because if you don't, anything can be happening around you. And so things
Absolutely.
that he was teaching the granddaughters, you know, um, about
walking,
themselves,
yeah,
being keeping themselves safe, even just in households with our family members, because
right.
a lot of people are crazy now these days. They're just crazy, and they're doing stuff, and they're hurting our children because the children can't defend themselves. So I've always talked to even my children. I've talked to them. Just like I need to talk to them and tell them what's going on, even though and this like think about it. When we were younger, we used to go over people's house, spend the night at neighbor's house, spend the night at this house, and you never had to worry about anything. They can't do that now. My granddaughter just didn't understand, well, why can't I go to my friend's house and stay? And I would tell her, I said, I don't know the people that you're going to their house, honey. And we lived in a predominantly white area in Millersburg, and I was like, no, not my little black baby. You ain't hurt my baby. So she just didn't understand it, and I just had to break it down to her, honey. And I told her exactly why. I don't. I say now people can come to my house. It's a house of women, and we're here, and we make ourselves known to people. A lot of people hide stuff. They have stuff going on that the public just don't know about. And I told her, I said, and you can't trust everybody, honey. You know, even though you go to a Christian school, doesn't mean that everybody there is Christian.
Well, I just, I had my mother said she had a wonderful childhood and she tried to let me have a wonderful childhood. And my mother's a pleasant woman. She always smiled. I'm more like a little sourpuss, but I've learned to smile. But I wish the young people, I hope they do well,
Hmm.
I think instinct takes over and I hope they have, it can solve the problems, that's facing them today
Mhm.
successfully,
Mhm.
to the better of mankind. So that God loves them more than I ever could. But I tell you, they have a lot. It's a lot of beauty there and a lot of
It
challenges.
Hmm.
is.
Yeah.
It
A lot
is,
of
and there's a
challenges.
lot of obstacles in their way. And that's why I keep telling my granddaughter, I say, you're 15 years old. You're going to be 16 in November. I say, honey, it's time for you to start getting your competitive side on, and let's get a little. You're beautiful. You are beautiful. I said, unless you're in the modeling business, and that's a hard business too. I said, you're gonna have a hard time. You gotta figure out what you want to do and get it and start working with it and run with it. I said because your group, her age group right now, are the ones that's gonna be coming up against a lot of government stuff hard in a little while, especially the females. To me, I see them being very competitive when it comes to politics, the female. But then I'm looking at our young black men that are becoming leaders in the community too. I was checking out a couple of groups on Facebook, and I was just like, now, these guys are ready. These guys are ready, and I just try to introduce my granddaughter to this type of environment because don't think that somebody's going to take care of you for the rest of your life. I don't care how beautiful you are. You got to have something up here so that you can take care of yourself first and be able to live first yourself. And I say, and then when you get somebody else to be your partner, they can be your partner. And it's not that they're going to be your boss.
You know, speaking of taking care of yourself, I was, I never really looked at it that I wanted someone to take care of me. But when I look at my mother met my dad. She didn't have, she had, you know, she was didn't have a career, and then she had me. They were married, and then my dad, she went off. She sold everything she had in her piece. She told me she sold everything she had in her apartment, and went off with this military man to Germany. What a fantastic idea for a career. What a leap in faith. And she came back, you know, in one piece, you know. But I wouldn't recommend that for people today. My dad took care of my mom. My mom, I mean, she was totally at, he was in total control. Here she was, a young black, she was a nice looking woman with this little baby, and he was the true head of household in a land far away, in a language she didn't understand, among people that were not like she. Up in the mountains, they could see the Swiss Alps from the house. So
Beautiful.
my dad said he could see the Swiss Alps. So, but she missed home so much, and when she landed back in Philadelphia, she never left again.
She said, I'm never leaving again.
Yeah.